Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Self-love through freedom and connection. So feel free to connect to The Brave Never Fall on these social media platforms. If you find anything of value in this following podcast, hit that like button, subscribe and share, and support the brave and bold tribe growing one purposeful soul at a time. There are no coincidences in life. The strength you have is real. Each breath you take is a blessing. Don't give up, give more. Believe in yourself and trust yourself. How are you feeling? Take a moment to do a self-check-in for yourself. How are you feeling mentally? How are you feeling emotionally? How are you feeling physically? How are you feeling spiritually? Are you feeling balanced? Are you still journeying on an intentional, purposeful path? How are you feeling? Balancing yourself is a healthy daily practice that will reliably keep you in harmony with your entire mind, body, heart, and soul. Clear your mind. Take a moment of silence for yourself right now in the moment. You are here now. How are you feeling? Complete one trial, succeed at one test, and 2 more will take their places, like a hydra. We all know what the mythical hydra was. It was a dragon-like creature, usually with 5 heads. You cut off one, 2 more takes the place of the head you just cut off. And in life, I always looked at issues this way. It's almost like the snowball effect, where you have an issue, you're going through something, and based on the decisions you make, or uncontrollably other things come in and make decisions for you, or just pop up and you have to deal with them, it seems like one problem suddenly has turned into 2 problems. You address one of those 2 problems, and now one of those problems has turned into 3, and on and on and on. That can be very discouraging for anyone. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how disciplined you are, how mentally prepared you are for things, your ability to detach in situations. That multiplying and snowball effect of problems can be hard to endure. But that's why we have to endure them, because inside of them is the positivity. They may present themselves as a negative challenge, but there's something inside of that challenge. It's almost like a piñata. Once you crack it open, all the positive things are inside. And that is the reward. It may suck. It may be hard. It may mentally break you, physically break you. But the reward is that you will always learn something positive that either you did wrong, did right, things you didn't see coming, things that you didn't know before. Now you know. And only by going through this are you able to grow and learn more from it. Without it, you're just stumbling. The definition of trial by fire is a test of one's abilities to perform well under pressure. This expression began with the medieval practice of determining a person's guilt by having them undergo an ordeal, for example, walking barefoot through a fire. The word trial, a test of the performance and qualities or stability of someone or something. It can also be viewed as an experiment, where we learn more from the trial by studying it and analyzing the results. Fire, although it can mean many things by definition, when paired with an experimental trial, gives off a sense of urgency. Metaphorically, that fire burns within us and all around us. Endure, by definition, means to suffer something painful or difficult with patience, to remain in existence, to last. There is no finish line. There is no end. The suffering part of that definition is a mindset thing. You will only suffer if you believe you are. The trials you endure are just that, trials. How we choose to look at them, deal with them, and learn from them is entirely up to you. The trial may break you, knock you down, damage you emotionally and physically, disrupt you mentally and spiritually. It's how you react to it that will determine whether or not you are suffering or enduring. Whether we are actively and intentionally putting ourselves through trials or we have them forced upon us uncontrollably, we are obligated to endure, to face the challenges, the fears, and the failures bravely. You came this far. Don't you dare give up now. The trials are necessary in life. They help us grow stronger in all areas of life, gives us proper perspective and the knowledge we need to be both at peace and successful. Without enduring trials, we become hollow, empty shells of our potentially fulfilled selves. The trials aids us in defining our purpose and reassuring our values. Valor on the Moonbows, Episode 7, Enduring Trials by Fire. If you go to any place in the world, any culture, most likely they have some type of story that reflects upon a trial by fire. Whether it's mythology, spiritual, just general filmmaking, stories and books, campfire stories. It's a very human thing to acknowledge and accept in life, that every human being has gone through something that is equal to a trial by fire on some level. You could say the very act of being born, going through the process of literally coming out of your mother, is a trial by fire, both for you and her. your life starts then. And as you move through life, you start accumulating more and more experiences. How we choose to look at things is always important. Perspective in anything that you think about is important. How you view what's going on around you, how you view yourself, how you react and respond to certain things and people and places, it's always important. You can choose to look at anything that you do as some version of a trial by fire. If there's any resistance involved, or there's anything that causes you any type of stress or duress or pain in your body, and we'll talk more about pain in episode 8, so I won't go too far into that, because this is the beginning of a companion piece for episode 8. What you feel and how you react and what you do is very important as far as your perspective goes. What are you choosing to acknowledge about what you just went through? And what are you trying to forget about instantly? What are you trying to ignore? What are you trying to repurpose? What are you trying to redefine? We do this all the time. We look at the stuff that we want in our lives, and we don't look at other things in that same way. We look at certain things that we're aligned with, and we intentionally look at them. We want to learn more about them. The things that we don't want to learn about, or we're afraid of, or we failed at, we tend to walk away from those things. But you should really turn and face the things that you're afraid of. Face the things that you failed at. Face the things that are going to make you stress out because you didn't do it right. They're not going away. Those things are always going to be there. So you have to turn and face them, and let's see what we can salvage out of whatever it is you feel like you failed at. Let's see if we can salvage all the fears that you have. Let's see if we can turn those things around, understand them. Why are you afraid? Why are you procrastinating? Why is this relationship failing? Remember, the common denominator in every failure you've ever had in life is always going to be you. Regardless if it's work, if it's relationships, if it's education, whatever it is, the common denominator will always be you when it comes to failure. Regardless if it's your fault or an outside force coming towards you and you're saying it's their fault. Either way, you still have to deal with the reality that you're living a life, and you have to deal with it. Whatever life you've created for yourself, you have to deal with it. As an adult, male or female, it's our obligation. It is part of our purpose to understand what happened before happened. Yes, a lot of things may have happened in life that you cannot control, that was forced upon you, that you had to deal with, a lot of memories that were not your fault that you were stuck with. But it is the past, and you are here now. So whatever you went through, find the good in it instead of focusing on the bad and allowing those bad experiences to define you now. No, you can't just get rid of all the memories and the emotions attached, but you for damn sure can say, I went through something and I'm still here. That acknowledgement alone gives you proper perspective. Proper perspective is needed on anything and everything that we do in life. Everything. Otherwise, we become very sensitive, weak individuals. Around the clock. 24/7, all year long, for decades, for our whole lives. And that's because we're allowing fear to rule over all the things about us that could potentially make us the strongest versions of ourselves. There's one thing to be the best version of yourself. You have to add in the strength, the empowerment, the love that you have for yourself. Some people can't create that on their own. Some people have to have those outside uncontrollable forces come in and start the trial for them. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Some of these people are waiting for it to happen. Some people are unexpectedly assuming it would never happen. Either way, it's going to happen. If you're afraid of the term trial by fire, enduring, then That's completely understandable. I believe we all are. The potential threat of something coming and disrupting your life, especially if you're content and you're comfortable, which is why I contend that getting too content and too comfortable in any area of life can be potentially harmful to you if you're not prepared for things to come in and disrupt it. Do you know someone who is very comfortable and content in their life, and they seem to be on top of the game, or they seem like very strong, level, balanced out people? Everything's on point. The bank account's on point. The car's on point. Wife's on point. The dog and cat's on point. Everything's on point. Vacation's on point. They got this. Then something happens in their life. It can be something simple, or it can be something big. Disruption occurs, and all of a sudden, their relationship isn't working. They have to switch a job, maybe move to a different place. They start picking up bad habits. All of a sudden, everything seems to be changing, and it seems like overnight. And all that was, if you would sit and talk to these people, it could be literally one thing that came in and disrupted that comfort and that contentment. And all of a sudden, they didn't know how to respond to it. Now they're in a tailspin. Now they're figuring out, where did I go wrong? I never saw this coming. We're not psychic. We can't see everything coming. But just as the sun comes up and goes down every day, we can assume that a problem is going to come and go at some point. You're not going to go too long without something coming and disrupting whatever comfort you have found for yourself. Would you rather go through that trial unprepared or prepared? Are you going to go into it suffering because you weren't detached enough and wasn't strong enough mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually to deal with it? Or are you going to endure through confidence, self-respect for yourself, self-love, discipline? I choose to go with the self-love, the self-control, the self-respect, the self-awareness, and the discipline. The fact that I know that something could happen to me at any moment, or to a family member, or to the material things that I feel I don't need in my life, but I like having them in my life, there's not a day that goes by I don't think all that could go away, and what am I left with? I'm left with myself. And if I'm left with myself, do I want a weak version of myself to be left with, or a strong version? It's a mental mindset shift to be able to deal with that type of reality for yourself, to be able to understand that type of perspective about not only yourself, but about what could potentially happen to you, and not sugarcoat everything that's going on in your life. There's nothing wrong with being at peace and being comfortable with where you're at. In fact, I tell anyone, if you have found peace, joy, and happiness in any area of your life, you do whatever you can to hold on to it, as long as it's not harmful to yourself and others. That does not mean get so dug into that peace, joy, and happiness in that area that you become weakened in other areas. That is not what that means. That means you found peace, joy, and happiness in that area. Use that to fuel the strength you need in other areas that you aren't peaceful and happy and joyful in. You need that peace. Any area you can find. If you're at peace mentally and physically you're a wreck, you're going to need that peace and joy and happiness mentally to filter off into the physical. Same with the emotional, same with the spiritual. It's called being balanced. The more we can balance all that out with peace, joy, and happiness, fulfillment, and purpose, based on good, solid values and morals and principles, you are good. It's the moment we take all that for granted and we believe that once we have it, it's ours, it's mine, I've got it. Nothing, no one, no place could take this away from me. And you would be mistaken to believe that, because it happens to people every single day around the world. It is not a right to have those things. It's a privilege. You have to earn them. You have to earn them. Any amount of peace, joy, and happiness that you get in life is through it being earned. You don't get financial security from not earning it. Now, you may say, well, there's a lot of people who get inheritance and this and that. Great for them. That's one area of their life. And they may be content and comfortable with that inheritance. But are they in all the other walks of their life? We have to look at the entire spectrum. We talked about this in the last podcast, in episode 6, about focusing on one aspect of someone who looks like they're killing it in life. And we say, wow, this person has it all. No, they don't. They have it once in one area. They don't have it all. They have one segment mastered. And it masks all the other things that are stuck in shadows, that are sinking in quicksand, that are getting washed away in hurricanes. They mask all that with the perfection of the one area in their life that they have mastered comfortably. And they're in their peace, they're in their joy, they're in their happiness, they're in their contentment. And they want you to see that because it gives them power, it gives them strength, it gives them a good feeling to know that I have something that you don't have. Now, maybe they're not doing it to be bragging about it, but who doesn't feel good about something that they're good at? If you're beautiful, you want to show off how beautiful you are. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're a good athlete, you want to show off how good of an athlete you are. If you have money, you may want to say, look, I earned this. I'm going to go buy myself that nice car or house. There's nothing wrong with that. I encourage that. That's called empowerment. In an area of your life that you feel empowered in, that's your right to do that at that point because you've earned it. You have a right to do it when you've earned it. But a lot of times in life, we don't earn it. And we think, why don't I have this? It must be a right for me to have this. No, not for you. We have to put things in perspective here. So how do we get to a place where the proper perspective is earned? We have to get ourselves in situations where we really will learn something. Anyone can go and do something extremely well that they've done 1,000 times. They already know the outcome before they even do it. Now, it may be intense while they're doing it, but you haven't learned anything. In fitness, we call it hypertrophy. You can go in and lift the same weight for 5 years straight. It may burn and hurt while you're doing it, but you're not building any more muscle because you're not putting any strain on your muscle. So after they recover, they start to grow. You have to up the ante. You have to raise the bar. So we have to get to a place in every area of our life where we have something that's going to challenge that area to grow. And sometimes we can't sit back and wait for it to happen. We have to intentionally create this opportunity for ourselves. I myself wanted to grow in every aspect of my life, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I made it a point when I had my awakening and I found out that there's more to life, and I was definitely not standing on good values and principles, and I needed a new blueprint. I needed to recreate every aspect of my life from top to bottom, inside and out. I knew mentally I needed to get smarter, so I needed to start reading more, learn more about everything that I could. Physically, I knew that I had once been in good shape. I wanted to get in the best shape of my life. How I'm going to do that? How I'm going to test myself? I started running marathons. Emotionally, I needed to know, how am I failing? Again, common denominator. How am I failing at all these relationships that I've been in? How did my marriage fail? I can't just blame all these people. What part did I play that I didn't do well enough? And what can I learn from that? So I learned more about relationships, how to deal with people, how to balance my emotions. And then spiritually, I needed to find something that I can connect to that was a higher power than me, that made me feel connected to something that is a part of my life, but is not ruling my life. And I found Tao. And that essentially changed everything for me. Tao was the quintessential building block for my new support that I was building for myself. Because it had all the values and everything that I already knew, but it's told in a way and you live it in a way where it's easy, it's simple, and it's beautiful. And it helped me balance all of these things out. But I knew that was just the starting point. It's easy to say I want more knowledge. You actually have to go do it. It's easy to say I'm going to run a marathon. You actually have to go do it. It's easy to say I'm going to be better in relationships and understand every type of relationship dynamic I could think of better. You still have to go execute that. It's one thing to say you're going to follow a religion. You still have to be disciplined about it. So you create the trials by fire. You start creating these things to fuel it, to stoke it, to get these things really going. I challenged myself to start reading like crazy, to start acquiring certifications, to start pushing myself, the boundaries of myself mentally, learning new words every single day, making sure I don't go a day without listening to at least a 2 or 3 hour podcast about a subject I've never even heard before. I don't care if I like it or not. Listen to it. Listen to as many different people as possible. Take notes, journal, write, do whatever it is you got to do every single day to make sure when I went to bed, I knew I had learned far more than if I had not done any of that. And I just kept pushing that knowledge into my brain. Physically, eat better, getting more cardio, stand away from bad foods, not eating around the clock, making sure if I'm going to run a marathon, I got to learn how to run. I got to learn how to physically endure this trial that I'm putting myself through. And now it's my favorite physical activity is running. Emotionally, I knew, okay, how am I supposed to learn how to be a better communicator? How am I supposed to learn how to be better in a relationship with a woman? How am I supposed to figure all this stuff out? And I purposely went out and found coaches and people I could talk to, and I learned about relationships, learned more about how women think and how they feel, learned more about how men think and how we feel. I just put it all together, and spiritually again, making sure that I'm not just saying I'm a Taoist, but actually being disciplined about it, that it is me, it defines me, it is who I am. At my core, that's who I am. It's not a falsehood. None of this stuff was easy. None of this stuff came quick. But all of it was necessary, and all of it has made me a better person. And there is no finish line with any area of those. There is no end. Every day, even now, I still need to learn as much as I can every single day. Still learning more about relationships. Still pushing myself, changing as we speak, changing the way that I run so I'm more efficient. Learning more about my religion. It never ends. And when I feel like I'm getting too comfortable in an area, I will do something, I will make an adjustment to put me through something that's going to make me stronger in that area. Trials by fire, in a lot of people's minds, has a negative connotation. It almost means like self-induced suffering, like you're just unnecessarily punishing yourself and suffering for the sake of suffering and punishing yourself for things that you failed at. And that is not true. Trial by fire, we go through them every single day. It's a trial by fire to get through the winter if you hate winter. It's a trial by fire to get through your in-laws' dinner when you hate the way that the mother-in-law cooks. There's a trial by fire changing a baby's diaper. There's all types of trials by fires. We do this all the time. It's what is the perspective and how are we really viewing that? What lens are we looking at this particular event that we're going through in? Are we looking at it through the lens of we're going to intentionally learn something from this? So it's that type of trial by fire, or are we just saying, here we go again, I got to go through this, and now we're looking at it through the suffering lens? I say, take that suffering lens, take a hammer, and break it. Take the shards, throw it away, wipe the table clean, get out the other lens, polish it up, and start looking at everything through the eyes of enduring. Because when you start looking at things that you're enduring them instead of looking at them as if you're suffering through them, that doesn't mean you're going to not get down on some days. That doesn't mean some days you're not going to get depressed, but you're going to feel like the questions start bouncing in your head. Why is this happening to me? That doesn't mean those aren't going to happen. What that means is that when those thoughts pop into your mind, you will default to detachment and say, okay, why am I asking myself that question? And through answering that question, you find out more than just living in the question. So you'll bounce back from those letdowns and those small, when you start feeling down on yourself and you're not feeling great. You have default mechanisms. You have things that you can go to piece things together where you feel at least a little bit better. No one says you're going to be 100% happy and smiling all the time. That's not what enduring trials by fire mean. It doesn't mean through trials by fire you gain eternal peace and happiness and joy. That's not what it means. It means you're strengthening your resolve. It's strengthening your mental capacity to be able to deal with and focus through things when things are fucking turning red all around you and there's fire and you're just like, what is going on? You need that mindset to say, no matter what's going on, I will figure it out and I'm going to learn from it so I don't have to go through this particular trial more than once. And if this trial, at least more than once, the way that I'm doing it now. Because that's the thing about trials. Once you go through something once, that doesn't mean it's never going to come back again, but that next time it's not going to seem so significant. It sucks, but it's going to be like, I've been there. Big whoop. It sucks, but I'll handle you very quickly and you're not going to get me down. I've dealt with worse. That's what we want. David Goggins calls it callousing the mind. Or you're creating a sword. You put the sword inside of the fire and you beat the shit out of it until you get a sword. You keep beating it and beating it and beating it and beating the shit out of it. And that's essentially what you do to your mind. You're making your mind hard. You're making your mind a calloused machine up there in your mind. Doesn't mean you have to stay in that state all the time. Not everybody in the world has to be David Goggins. The only person in this world you have to be is yourself. Truthfully and honestly yourself. Brutally honest to yourself about what it is you're being soft about and what it is you're being weak about and unreasonable about. Why aren't you understanding that when relationships fail, you are a part of the problem? When you lose your job, you are part of the problem. We can't play victim. We can't allow people to tell us that we are the cause of everything, nor should we allow people to tell us that we are the cause for everything being good. Everything in this world is neither great because we did it or bad because we did it. It just is. We're too quick to take credit for all the things we're good at, and then we try to back away from the stuff that we're not so good at. We don't want the credit. We want to put that on somebody else. I don't want the credit for the relationship ending, but I'll take credit for the relationship being great. Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. You still have an obligation to yourself to look at yourself and what role did you play in anything that you do. Just because life and the things in life and the people in life and the places in life test us does not mean those are bad things. Again, that negative connotation with trials by fire. Putting yourself through something that's difficult is not going to hurt you. It's always going to help you in the long run. It's going to help you far worse than if you don't do it. What scares me the most when I talk to some people is when they tell me, ask them, when was the last time you had any significant challenge that you felt like changed your life? And the answers that I get from people aren't wrong, because there is no right or wrong answer. It's a perspective thing. Their perspective on what they've been through tells you more about them than if they tell you, you know, when you walk up and ask them how you doing. Oh, I'm good. But you ask them, like, when's the last significant thing that you've been through that changed your life? They will always go to big things. Funerals and weddings. It could be good or bad. Again, there's no right or wrong answer here. But it tells you a lot, because people tend to go to my big life-changing thing. I've done this. I always say my biggest life-changing thing in my life was my father, and it still is. Then I asked him, okay, what is the biggest life-changing thing that happened to you today? Because what happens is, a lot of people, when you ask them that question, they're reaching so far back in time that I have to remind them, are you even the same person now that you were back then? And they'll say no. I'm like, well, how is that affecting you now? And they'll say, well, it has the effect. Yes, it does. But something had to have happened in between that, with the current version that you are right now. What is that thing? I don't know. I'm like, well, have you added a new pet in your life? Yeah, I got a dog about 2 weeks, and you see their face brighten up just because they didn't even think about that. Did your new dog bring some joy and some change to your life? It had to. Yeah, it did. Good enough. We don't have to always think about the big bad things and the great good things. There can be all those levels in between that are life-changing for you, that you learn more about yourself. It's perspective. You're not broken enough in life where you wouldn't have gotten a dog that would bring you peace and joy and happiness. I remind them of that. People reminisce on the old days as if they don't exist anymore. They will always exist within you, in your mind and your memory in some way. We always distort the past, but it still exists. The question is what are you doing now, and what things are in your life now that are significant, that are life-changing for you on a daily basis? We go through a trial by fire every single day in some area. Every day, there's something that tests us. And it's how we perceive that test that makes it significant or insignificant. That makes us sit back and say, should I have learned something for this, or shouldn't have? Should I not have? Excuse me. And myself personally, when I go to bed, I try to remember all the things today that not only could have potentially be bad or have got worse, but what are the things that I did easily that I normally would perceive to be hard? Because that means you're growing. What things did I do today that I used to bitch and moan about, and now I do it without even thinking about it? That means you're disciplined. What things did I say to people today and interact with them today? What did I do today with people that I normally never would have done? I never would have had the courage, or I never would have had the understanding. I never would have had the patience to speak to this person this way, or to do this way, or socialize this way. And now I don't even think about it. What did I do physically today that I normally I never would do 10, 20 years ago? And now I do it without even thinking about it. We have to think about things that way. There's nothing wrong with reminding yourself about the things that you used to do that were either good or bad, that today serves you better by the way you're doing it now. The trials by fire we did in the past were learning mechanisms, and yes, they are inside of you. They are making you now. They are making you who you are. But we are enduring trials by fire every single day. What are we learning from these trials? What are we learning from these tests and these challenges that we have every single day? What does it tell us about our resolve, about what we can and cannot do in certain situations? And then what are we going to do about that information? Trials by fire, enduring them, is strength, and is something that will be needed in your life for as long as you draw breath. But as long as you endure them, you are guaranteed you will always be strong. Pledge with me. And listen to these words carefully. We're going to do this almost affirmation style, because this is needed. I'm going to repeat this and repeat this and repeat this, and I want you to repeat this with me. I am the strongest person that I know. Although I was once weak, today, here and now, I am the strongest person that I know. I know tomorrow may bring me rain. I know tonight may bring me pain. I know someday I may go insane, but I will never live my life in vain, because I am the strongest person that I know. No one can take my strength away from me but me. No one can reduce me to weakness but myself. No one can push me to failure but myself. And no one can make me ascend to the level that I know I need to be but myself. I pledge today and tomorrow and the day after tomorrow that I will remain in this strength. I will remind myself daily that I am the strongest person I know. I will live in peace. I will live in purpose. And I will live in discipline, because I am the strongest person I know. This is your day. You are here now. These are your moments. You own them. You are brave, bold, powerful. You do believe in yourself. You know you have more in the tank. You know the glass is half full. There's still more room for improvement. There is no end. Believe, believe, believe in yourself. Trust yourself. Trust that you can do whatever it takes to accomplish whatever you want from life. You don't procrastinate. You don't embellish. You don't lie. You are true to yourself always. Knowledge is in your mind. Peace is in your heart. Balance is in your body. Purpose is in your soul. You are greatness. The sky is not the limit. You have purpose, fulfilling, intentful purpose. You are here for a reason. You are unique. You are self-love, self-discipline, self-respect, self-control. You have self-awareness. You are joy, peace, and happiness. You are freedom, and yet connected to every person, place, and thing in the universe. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Learn, laugh, and level up.